former Maryville Scott, Donnie Moore, and from the Daily Times, Marcus Fitzsimmons.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, and I'm here at the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville, along with Blount County Sports Hall of Famer Donnie Moore and longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons. Tennessee and Georgia to square off with the season on the line. And we're going to the whistle blows, and now let's set today's lineup card. Donnie Moore will fill us in on the latest high school football playoff news, and we'll follow up with the latest national sports stories. Marcus Fitzsimmons will be on board to update us on what's happening in local high school sports. Alcoa Tornado football will be in the discussion. And I will jump in and talk some UT football and then take a look at the latest college football playoff poll. We're happy you're with us, so let's break the huddle and dive right in. Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, good morning to you guys.
Good morning, Mike.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Bad morning. Bad morning.
Yeah.
I had to get up. That was bad morning.
Well, it's time for Let Her Rip, and Donnie, I got in here this morning, I thought, well, maybe I should make that fight last night, that Mike Tyson fight, to Let Her Rip. I mean,
So-called fight.
I was all set for the fight to come on at 8 o'clock. I was in front of the TV and had it on Netflix, came on at 8 o'clock. And then I was waiting at 9 o'clock, and I was waiting at 10 o'clock, and I was waiting at 11 o'clock, and at 12 o'clock I was still waiting on the fight.
Wow.
And I just wore out, and I said, I'm going to bed. Well, I was coming in this morning, saw somebody, and they said, did you see the fight last night? And I said, no, I went to bed. What time did it come on? I said, I went to bed at 12 o'clock, and the guy says, well, it came on at 12:15, and it was over at 1:15. I'm telling you, that's a long haul, isn't it?
It sure is,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That's a long undercard.
You're not a kidding. They got Mike Tyson out of a nursing home to make, what, several $1 million? I guess that's a good thing. Anyhow, hey, I'm gonna rip Georgia player Jake Pope this morning, who was caught on social media celebrating with Ole Miss fans after his team was manhandled by the Rebels 28-10. I guess if you can't beat them, just join them. I don't know what in the world this guy was thinking. They lost the Rebels manhandled Georgia last week 28-10. You play for an old school coach in Kirby Smart, and you pull a stunt like this. Now, I realize that Pope, according to his story, was celebrating with friends from his high school, but I think those friends were on the Ole Miss side.
They were. They had on an Ole Miss jersey.
that made it worse. But, get off the field. Get away from those people out there that's celebrating. That's not a good situation. Get to the locker room.
Get away from the cameras.
Absolutely. Get away from there. Well, he did apologize to everybody for it. And,
he did.
And, of course, Kirby Smart called him, what was it?
An idiot.
Yeah, an
Called
idiot,
him an idiot.
which I thought was a good term.
And then he backed off of that.
And then a couple of days later, he thought, oh, gosh, it's not 1970 anymore. I better retract on that and take that back. But I don't know, Marcus. Not the kind of press Georgia needs going into the Tennessee game, but it seems like everything's back on keel, but probably not the best decision by this young man. I guess he'll learn from it.
For anybody else, yes, you're absolutely right. For Georgia, nobody got in a car. That's the best thing they can hope for. This is nothing for Georgia at this point in the year.
True
After what the news they've dealt with over the last year,
that's true.
A player being called an idiot is really low on their Richter scale.
Yeah.
And, if it's not for NIL and recruiting, Kirby doesn't take that back. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He didn't take it back in person. He said, I may have apologized to the press, but you're still an idiot.
Right. Right.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, Ole Miss stormed the field. We've had more field storming this year than I guess we've probably even had in the past. I think they stormed the field, at several other places this year.
Including Tennessee.
Yeah, including Tennessee. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm afraid somebody's going to get hurt. And if somebody gets hurt, you know what's going to happen. There's going to be lawsuits. And these schools the conference and these schools may end up losing their NIL money and everything else. But
along with their shirts.
But it doesn't seem like, Marcus, that the fines are a big deal to these schools. It's just almost like, well, these fans pay to come in here, and we're selling these stadiums out. We don't want to upset these fans too much. We don't want to get on the bad side of these fans because they're the ones that's putting the money out there. But, tearing down goalposts and getting out there on the field and the other team trying to get off of the field, I think up to this point they've been real lucky.
They've been extremely lucky, but have faith in the SEC and marketing department. I see a collaboration coming here where there will be an app. Part of the app on your phone will be the Field Storming Emergency app where you can donate $5 and sign the waiver to gain admission to the field for storming purposes.
Exactly, and another $15 for the goalpost being tore down.
Well,
See?
at $5 a head, and say 60,000 of your people make it onto the field, you can pay for the goalpost and the SEC fine.
That's true.
Yeah.
And everybody's happy, and your waiver's taken care of. As long as you take care of that and provide some additional security for getting the visiting team off the field, I think you're fine.
I just think that the fans are fans. They're fans. That's what they are. They're at the game to be entertained. They're not to come down on the field. That's just not where they need to be. They need to be up stand. But they got a problem. You can't put enough law enforcement officers down there on that field to keep people off of there in a moment where there's a big victory
Absolutely
or whatever.
not.
You just cannot do it.
You can't, and fans are 4 steps away from being fanatics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at any point in time, I think you have to reevaluate security at some point in these stadiums, and not just for fan behavior, but we've seen some things. Like they can deal with limited medical emergencies that happened, and they do well with that, and they deal well with policing the sections for the most part. But if there's something that gets beyond 4 or 5 people, they're truly outnumbered with the resources they can bring down to that section at any given point. And when it comes to keeping people off the field, the physical barriers just aren't working, and that's where you're going to see somebody get hurt.
And the fines aren't working either. I mean,
well, that doesn't impact the fan. The fan's not. If the fan was going to have to dish out $500,000, he would think twice about going on the field.
Wow.
But if you have, I don't know if they're going to have to get to the point that a university's going to have to cite everybody on the field individually for them to get out of there. But something will eventually happen to try to curtail it or control it.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop it.
I saw a real good comment. The LSU game, the Alabama game that was beating them, and it showed the stands in the fourth quarter, and they were practically empty. And somebody put on Facebook or somewhere where LSU fans have stormed the parking lot.
Stormed the parking lot.
I thought that was pretty good.
Like I say, you're not going to stop it, Mike. It's like, you ever watch an old Western? I know you have. You've watched old Westerns and seen a cattle stampede. Can they stop that cattle stampede?
No.
With a few
And
cowboys?
all those people,
Absolutely not.
And if it's a night game, those people have been drinking all day long.
It's the herd mentality.
They're completely crap-faced, running out there on the field at 12 o'clock midnight, good luck with all of that.
Oh,
but,
man.
Anyway, I don't know. I don't have any answers for it, but I think sooner or later.
I don't think anybody else
Sooner
does
or later,
either.
there's going to be some bad news, I'm afraid, over all of that. Hey, we got some UT basketball news. Tennessee basketball team's now 3-0. They're number 11 in the country. They had a win last Saturday over Louisville, 77-55, and then they defeated Montana, 92-57 on Wednesday night. They have Austin P coming in to Thompson Bowling at Food City Arena tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and that can be seen on the SECN Plus network. So that tells you about the importance of the game when you get put on SECN Plus network. But so be it. They should go 4-0. Lady Vols 3-0 also, and they defeated Middle Tennessee State 89-75. And before you say cupcake on that deal, Marcus, I believe last year Middle Tennessee State upset Tennessee, if my memory serves me right. So
I think you're right.
So 89 to 75 on that one.
They were a tournament team too.
Yeah. So that's a good win for them. Liberty today at noon for the Lady Vols at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City, SECN Plus. So that tells you a little bit about their competition also. And then they're having to fight football too.
Yeah, that's true.
They got that game at 12
And
o'clock.
Mike, you can say this, that we always talk about football, and in the history of Tennessee football, several coaches were let go or hired for their ability to beat in-state opponents. You could argue that Kelly Harper not ever beating MTSU may have been a key to her downfall.
It could have been.
Yeah.
And so don't underestimate being able to play with that team, because going into that game, MTSU was receiving more votes than Tennessee was for the AP Top 25.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to my old buddy Kerry Green, who's the head coach of the Lady Flames, coming in today to take on the Lady Vols. He's a graduate of class of 1974 at Friendsville High School, my
Very
class.
good.
So
Very good. And Friendsville High School back in the day, they had some pretty good girls basketball teams.
yeah, and some good
Pretty good
coaches
team,
too.
yeah.
Andy Landers was from Friendsville as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah, he did quite well at Georgia. And
Yeah.
Walter, was it Walter? Not Walter, Roan State.
Roan State.
Roan State, yeah.
That's my sister played
Yeah.
for him at Roan State.
Okay, hey, let's get to this Georgia-Tennessee affair. It's going to take place tonight at 7:30 in Athens, Georgia, between the Vols and the Bulldogs, and the game can be seen on ABC. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but there's never been a bigger game. I think this is the season on the line. A lot of people, Marcus, are calling this a playoff elimination game. Are you going to go that far?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going that far.
Yeah.
I don't see a path for Georgia to reasonably win their way back into the playoff conversation on their own if they lose today. There's an outside chance if they were to hammer Georgia Tech and have a lot of other things happen across the country.
They'd need a lot of help.
But as far as what they can control, they have to win today to stay in the conversation. Tennessee, I think, would be like Missouri. They're technically still in the conversation with 2 losses, but they'll have a lot of doubters if they don't do well today.
Well, they got UTEP, next week. They're not going to get any points for that. And then they got Vanderbilt, which could. Vandy's got to go to LSU. If they was to beat LSU down there and then come back home, they would be a worthy deal. Vanderbilt's Texas. That's Texas's best win on their schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, this scheduling, I don't know. It seems to me like they're going to have to do something about it in the future. Georgia has just had a horrendous schedule. I mean, they've played 8 straight games. They've not even been home for a month. And, I mean, Georgia has got the toughest schedule in the country. Now, I don't know what they got left in the tank today, but I'm telling you, they've been through it.
They
8
sure
straight
have.
games and being on the road the last 4 weeks or so, that's a tough deal.
It certainly is, Mike. The Dogs have been put through the ringer, as it were, schedule-wise.
We got a playoff spot on the line today. We've got the SEC championship game on line today, pretty much. I'd have to pencil in Tennessee to that, too, if they get a win, Marcus.
Very lightly.
Lightly
with the pencil. As you said, Vanderbilt is not a given, even if Tennessee wins today. Vanderbilt is – I'm not going to say top 25 team, but they are capable of playing with any top 25 team because they play up and down to whoever's on the field with them.
They do.
They can play really bad against a bad team, and they can play phenomenal against a good team.
Yeah. Let me throw this out there. Probably, without a doubt, Josh Heupel's biggest win would be 2 years ago when Tennessee beat Alabama over here, Nick Saban coaching. And broke the streak that Alabama had, the win streak. If Tennessee wins tonight at 7:30, would you mark this over that Alabama game 2 years ago because of the implications of going to the playoffs and chance to play in the SEC game and winning at Georgia? Would this be a bigger win than that one, do you think?
I do. I think it would be a bigger win. I think this may be his marquee win.
Yeah. What about a Marcus?
I would call it the second lead. If you want to call them signature wins, I would call it the second letter in the signature win. I think it would be just about on par because you've got almost as long a streak going with Georgia, but not quite as long. But Georgia is on that same par level where we were looking at as being the top of the SEC, where you're trying to get. So I would put it, if Tennessee pulls it off today in Athens, I would put it on par.
Yeah. It's a blackout game down at Georgia. If Tennessee was to win, I guess if those 5 Tennessee fans that are there storm the field, probably wouldn't make a big deal, would it? I mean, 5 fans running out there. I don't know whether they get the goalpost down or not, but anyhow, there's going to be a lot there's going to be a lot of Georgia fans there, and it's going to be noisy down there. And that's where the home field comes to an advantage in the SEC, because once those stadiums get real loud, it's hard to call plays, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
What's the line, 10 today?
8.5.
8.5.
It started off about 10, but it's dropped down.
I think it's 10.5 on some of the sites and 8.5 on others.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Well, I don't know. We'll talk about here in just a second about Georgia's situation. But Georgia has won 7 straight over the Vols. Any edge here as far as, hey, we got your number, or that's not quite as many wins as Florida had over Tennessee when they finally broke that streak, or Alabama. But 7 is 7, and that's, for most Vol fans, that's 7 too many probably. Yeah.
It is, and it's a home game for Georgia. They're coming off of some not great performances. You know, they're probably going to be tuned up for this one.
Yeah,
they will be, but I think the recipe, for better or worse, for Tennessee is the exact same one that just beat Georgia, and Tennessee might be capable of doing, depending on how Georgia plays. I think it's more on. I think you can take a consistency on what Tennessee's offensive line and defense can do, especially on the defensive front.
Yes.
It's how well Georgia responds and plays against them, because they did not respond against Ole Miss on either way.
No, they didn't.
The line was dominated by Ole Miss in both ways. Just throw out the plays and everything else, the big splashes. It was all started up front, and Ole Miss owned the line of scrimmage.
They did.
Don't want to take anything away from Ole Miss, because they got outstanding offense, and really to go with that outstanding offense at Ole Miss is they've got an outstanding defense also.
Yeah.
But I think Georgia and that schedule had maybe wore itself down, and it just came to a head right there at Ole Miss last week. But I don't want to take anything away from the Rebels, but I know fans around here saying, well, you know, I'm really glad Georgia got beat last week. Man, the Bulldogs got beat. I'm not so sure that's a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing, because, you know, I'm one of these guys, big game, next game.
Yep.
When you win a big game, I think I would have just much preferred them to have won at Ole Miss last week, coming back home this week, because when you lose, I tell you what, sometimes that can really work against the team that's coming in to play you.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, look what they did. They lose to Alabama and turn around and beat Texas.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This team can play well.
Sure they can.
The success rate of a good football team or basketball team or other team of losing a big game the week before and coming back to play a big game is much more in their favor than it is to win a big game the week before and then play that next game.
Yeah.
And as a player, I always saw that, because when you win that big game, everybody's patting you on the back. Everybody's, great game there. You know, they don't let you get over that game. But when you lose a big game like Georgia lost last week, and those pats on the back and all that, it's all stopped.
Sure.
And you're wondering where that goes, you know, and your back's up against the wall. I just don't know. I think I would have just, if being me, I would have preferred them to have beaten Ole Miss last week. Yeah. This Georgia team, a lot has been said about Carson Beck, the quarterback, and he's thrown some, he's having problems throwing interceptions. Yeah. I think he had a couple picks last week, and I think the week before he had 3 picks in a game. But I'm going to tell you, I don't know whether it's Carson Beck or it's that offensive line. I mean, they're not blocking anybody on runs. They're not protecting him. I mean, they've got some real issues on their offensive line, and Tennessee's defense is probably just licking their chops if they're looking at the film of some of Georgia's games. But what do you think, Carson Beck or offensive line? And they're beat up at running back too. I think they're down to a freshman running back there now. Everybody else is hurt. Marcus?
I think there's some wear and tear on Georgia's line offensively, and I think it's because you've got a fairly good core group up there, but the thing that Ole Miss can do and Tennessee can do even more so is Tennessee is so deep and talented. They can rotate that defensive front the entire game. I don't think Georgia has that luxury on their offensive line. And I think you saw that last week was the offensive line wore out.
Yeah, they scored 10 points.
So
they didn't score very many. I think they scored about, 10 or 13 points against Kentucky. I mean,
they don't seem to be as good as they typically are about being able to create some time for the quarterback on third down. If it's third and long, Georgia has been able to, when they needed to, give the quarterback some time to make that throw and pick up a first down. They don't seem to have that knack this year. And I don't know if that's the line not giving him time or if the quarterback's not reading it as well, or if people have just figured out something to get about that offense. But it's just not as efficient as it has been, and it's showing up.
And their receivers have got the same problem as our receivers. They got the drops. They got the drops on the receivers. They're not getting the play out of them. But on the other hand, Georgia's defense is stout. They're stout against the run. Tennessee, they got to run the ball. Tennessee has become a running football team this year. They're running the ball 40-some times a game, and Sampson's carrying that load. He had 30 carries last week. So we're not that passing, hurry up, throw the ball down the field all over the place type football team. We're much more of a running team. And what's Georgia best at? The run. Up front.
Stopping the run.
Stopping the run. That's where Georgia's at. So, Marcus, what gives here?
I think it'll be interesting to see how Tennessee approaches it because they know what the obstacle is there. And given the questions around Nico this week and his health, and, you kind of got to wonder, are they going to try to stretch Georgia deep, or are they going to do what Ole Miss did and more pick them at 10 yards and 12 yards, and then occasionally go deep? I don't know which way they'll plan to come out. I think it'll be interesting to see if it works or not.
Yeah.
But I don't think you just run Sampson into the heart of that Georgia defense 40 times without being able to throw the ball.
Yeah, and there's not going to be any doubt on that Georgia front who's going to run the ball, Donnie.
That's true.
We know who's going to get the ball.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that Tennessee has faced anybody all year long up front that's as solid as Georgia is. So that's something I think to watch in this game. That being said, Tennessee's offense has been very inconsistent. They don't score a lot of points. If we get 20-some points in a football game, that's a pretty good night for us. We got 30-some last week against a pretty bad Mississippi State game, but we were at, 26 or 27 before we got that score with about 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So we've been very inconsistent there, but Georgia's offense is inconsistent too. So do you see a defensive struggle, Marcus, in this one going
I
in?
don't know. I do not want to forecast this game. I'll be honest. I would not put money on this game under any circumstances. I have no feel for it whatsoever because I can see it. It's kind of like when you have the EA Sports machine play itself. I could see this thing being a 10-point Tennessee win. I could see it being a 10-point Georgia win. I could see it going to overtime. I could see either one of these teams blowing out the other. I don't have any feel for what's going to happen today until they get on the field and those front lines start playing each other, and we start seeing what's going to happen.
Well, that being said, Donnie, who's got the most pressure on them, Tennessee or Georgia coming into tonight? Now, Georgia, they've been here before. They've been in national championship games. They've won national championship games. They've been in big conference games, and it's been pretty much Alabama and Georgia, for the most part. Tennessee, it's still, I don't want to say a work in progress, but they're climbing the ladder.
Sure.
And now they're up there to the top of the ladder trying to get to the top rung.
Mm-hmm.
But they really haven't been there yet.
Right.
They haven't been there. So that being said, back this way, who's away from home? Georgia got 2 losses. Tennessee's got 1. Who's got the most pressure on them?
Well, I think you said it right there. If you look at the number of losses that each team has, Georgia has 2, Tennessee has 1. So, if pretty much Georgia gets almost mathematically eliminated from the playoffs if they lose this game tonight. Tennessee, if they lose the game, they've got 2 losses. Alabama's got 2. Georgia's got 2.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this later, but we could have 5 or 6 teams at the end of the year in this league with 2 losses.
Yeah.
And not that many spots open for the playoffs. And right now, we're talking about Georgia. They're out. They're not in the
No,
playoffs.
they are
and
not.
a lot of people are
Not
sitting
right
here going,
now.
well, they're in the playoffs. They're the 12th team. No, they're not.
They're not.
They're out because that bid, one of those bids goes to the other conference, one of the other conference championships. You got the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the ACC, and then you got the other conferences that are out there that get a bid. So right now you got Boise State and you got Tulane and you got Army as the 3 best teams. So right now that's another incentive for Georgia. They're out. They're out. They're out. So that being said,
so Georgia pretty much has to win tonight.
Yeah.
To stay in the fight.
Yeah. Game day will be in Athens. Josh Heupel's 3-1 when game day was on the ground. So they're there today. So it's either going to be 4-1 or it's going to be 3-2. Tennessee comes into the game having won 4 straight, but Marcus, the asterisk beside that, all of those games were at home.
They were, and I'm okay with that.
So are Tennessee. Tennessee's
I don't have a problem
Yeah,
with you
fans
win.
especially.
I mean, what you want is you want to win at home. I mean, that's how you. If you don't do that, then you've got problems. So, are they the kind of splashy wins we got used to under the first couple of years with Heupel? No. But the fact that they're winning without that, it may not be as rah-rah, splashy, cheery, but it's still a win, and it's still a good win. I mean, it's not like they stole any of these games. They won these games.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that, even if that's not the way football's looking these days. But I'll take a win to win.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, the game could come down to a field goal. And Max Gilbert, a couple of weeks ago, he was shanking them right and shanking them left. But last week, Donnie got his confidence back. I think he kicked 4 field goals last week against
kicked
Mississippi
4
State.
last week.
And that's 12 points right there.
Right.
So you put them 12 up there, and you're at, 33 minus 12 is
21.
21, and I think the line was 24. So you and I last week we said no, they can't beat Mississippi State by more than 24 points. But anyway, 12 points, that's big. And today when you got a stout defense that Georgia had, maybe it's going to come down to a field goal right at the end to win the game. So it's good to have his confidence back.
I thought it was great that he actually extended his career long in a clutch situation. Because he can't, 51 on that second field goal?
I think so.
I mean, that was huge for him. That's a huge confidence boost for a kicker.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of kick that can carry you through a season sometimes.
Yeah. Is it just me, or am I just getting really old? But I look at Max
We'll
Gilbert,
go with the old.
and Max looks like he's about maybe 9 going on 10. Huh? Is it just
He does
me?
look like a child.
He
out there,
really does look like
Baby
a young
face.
guy, and he doesn't look like he would the kind of guy that would hold up a long time in a fight. If he missed a real crucial field goal, but he does have a lot of pressure on him, and he could have a lot of pressure on him today, and as the season finishes out. But it's good that he got back on track last week. Hey, it's time to take a timeout here. When we return, Donnie Moore will provide the high school football scores and other sports news from around the area, and veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons joins us with his feature, Mark It Down. You're listening to the Goteez Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Goteez Sports page. Donnie Moore, we still got a couple of football teams in playoff action here locally, and it was a big night for them, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. And we'll get right into our local scoreboard, brought to you, as always, by Mandy B. Street Realty. Prep football playoffs, round 2. 40% of the local teams remain in contention at this point. We had 5 last week. Now we have 2.
And those 2 have been around
They
year in and year out.
They're
around
the block. Been around the block a few times. You're right.
Yep.
3A and 6A classes had representatives from our area last night. In the 3A round 2 playoffs, Alcoa hosted Austin East last night, for the second time this season, and Austin East just didn't have anything for the Tornadoes last night. I mean, the final score ended up 48-6. And it was a whole lot to not much at the end of the first half, right, Marcus?
It went a lot like the first game in
Yeah.
that Alcoa pretty much dominated this, and then we had a running clock the second half and saw maybe 1 or 2 drives take place and a couple scores that kind of didn't really change the outcome. So,
No, absolutely not.
And I actually give more props to Austin East, and I'm not going to give them the out with the excuse, but for them to get to the second round after the season they had, for them to win that first round game on the road,
it's pretty amazing,
up at Johnson County, I think that was the best effort Austin East gave, and I think they may have been a little bit tuckered from that.
You could be very close to being right.
They weren't bringing a new wrinkle for Alcoa, and Alcoa was very prepared. When you force 5 turnovers, 6 if you count turnovers on downs, you're going to win most games where you collect 6 turnovers.
Right.
And Donnie, Alcoa, when they have these games in the playoffs where they run the score up, it's a real advantage to them because they get a lot of young players in there. They get that playoff feel. And it's going to help them on down the line, next year after, and it's a big advantage, isn't it?
It certainly is, Mike. They've got kids that get to play in the second half and get some valuable minutes in the second half. So,
last night they weren't playing AE's backups. They were playing AE's first string.
They were playing the ones.
Yeah. And they had the 2s out there for a while, and I think they may even gotten to some of the 3s in some of the positions.
Yeah.
They did at quarterback anyway. But, it wasn't like Alcoa was trying to run it up. When you get a good kickoff return and throw one pass and it goes all the way to the end zone, I mean,
not much you can do.
There's not much you can do. And when you're up 21-0 5 minutes into the game, you can kind of let up. But then what did these guys work all week to do? To be on the field.
Yeah,
so you got to let them play some.
You got to let them play. That's right.
I mean, even when you do maybe more conservative play calling, you hand it off and the tailback breaks free for 30 or 40 yards. I mean, what are you going to tell them to do? Run out of bounds?
Sure.
So,
Eli Owens had a great first half, at least last night, and Eli Graff, the Eli boys, Eli Graff he just amazes me with things that he can do at quarterback. Quarterback for Austin East was a freshman.
They pulled the senior, and I don't know exactly when they did that since.
I don't know why.
Since they played Alcoa last time.
Yes.
And I think they're making the bid to build for the future there. But you go from a quarterback who's 6'4", 220 to a freshman quarterback who is 5'5", 130.
5'5", once soaking wet with his pockets full of rocks.
The best thing he had going for him is that he was sliding under the arms of the Alcoa defenders who came after him.
Yeah.
But he throws 4 interceptions, has to jump on a botched fumble snap, has, get sacked 3 times. at one point he'd completed more passes to Alcoa than he had to Austin East. But
Overall, I thought he handled the offense pretty well.
For with what he had to work with, I mean, he did okay.
Yeah,
I've seen quarterbacks do worse against Alcoa.
You and me both.
But, I thought Austin East had a good effort. I think we'll see a better matchup next week.
Speaking of that, that's going to be Gatlinburg-Pittman, who won over Unicoi County last night, 35-13.
And that was up there in Irwin.
Yeah.
Which is not an easy place to go to and win sometimes.
Absolutely not.
But that was great for GP because, that was a rematch for them as well. And remember, GP was the 3 seed this year.
Yes.
Because they had to do a 3-way tiebreaker between Unicoi, Johnson, and GP. And GP was the one-loss team that had to take the 3 seed. So for them to go up there and get that win, that was huge for them. And that sets up a quarterfinal rematch with Alcoa.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And that'll be right on Goddard Field and Bill Bailey Stadium next Friday night at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, the disappointing part about that is thousands of people pay big money to go to Gatlinburg and see the Christmas lights, and we got it for free last year going up there for the quarterfinals. So
that's true.
That's the downside is you don't get that free early look at the Christmas lights in Gatlinburg, but I think the Tornadoes are fine with that being at home.
Well, on the bright side, though, we see the Maryville Christmas tree just has been put up this week. So out here in the parking lot next to Bluetick, our home for the sports page, the Goteez sports page. So Maryville started decorating already.
Yeah, and anybody out there that would like to show up at my house and put all my Christmas decorations up, I'd be glad to let you in, and you can go to it.
Yeah. We got a throng of people headed that way as we speak, Mike.
I bet.
Moving on to 6A, the 6A classification. Maryville hosted Science Hill last night. Maryville, the 1 seed. Science Hill was what? They were the 3.
They were the 2 seed.
The 2.
2 seed out of Region 1.
They were the 2. But they didn't play a whole lot like a 2 seed last night, or maybe Maryville just played more like a 1 seed. Ended up being 42-7 in favor of the Rebels. And, Maryville takes care of business.
Well, I think the real key to that was Maryville got a score, and then Science Hill's running back who really ran wild on Maryville in the regular season game where they played a non-region game. They have it 1st and goal. They give it to him 4 times up the middle, and he doesn't get in.
Wow.
Maryville's defense stopped him.
What a stand.
Great defensive effort.
What a stand.
So Maryville turns around and goes 99 yards the other way for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So they're up 14-0. Science Hill gets the drive to try to get back into this thing, make it a game, and they throw a pick 6. And now they're down 21-0 in the first quarter, and they're deflated. You can't blame them.
It's like the Alcoa game,
so it went from we're hopeful and we're going to tie this thing up and take Maryville to the end to we're down 3 scores and we're not even in the second quarter yet.
Wow, goodness.
So
backbreakers.
It was I think it was a great effort by Maryville. And considering this senior class saw what happened last year when they went on the road and lost in the second round, this is kind of a good – if anybody realizes you can't take it for granted that you're going to get to the quarterfinals no matter what your program's legacy is, it's probably this Maryville senior class.
Well, the signature thing with Maryville football is they don't make many mistakes. And when the other team makes mistakes, they can kill you with them.
They really can. And like I said, they did such and I've forgotten the young man's first name, but his last name is Necessary.
Mm-hmm.
He plays both ways. Running back, linebackers, like 6'2", 225.
Goodness.
He's a load. But they were able to contain him in a way they were not able to back in, I think it was week 5 or 6 when Maryville played up at Science Hill. And that was the key to the game for Maryville's being able to make that stop. And for them, it shows that Maryville's got the pieces. They can play with some of these teams.
Yes, they can.
And we know that Maryville can play with these teams, but that they're making adjustments and taking what was a 1-score game a month and a half ago and turning it into a mercy rule game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it shows how much Maryville has grown and is still growing with some of its personnel packages.
Yep, I agree. Well, next up for them, the Bearden Bulldogs come calling again. Maryville played them once before earlier in the season. Bearden defeated Dobbins Bennett last night, 26-7.
And I'm not surprised that Bearden was able to go up to DB and get that win because Bearden's a good team.
Yeah, they are.
They're also a team that had everything in the world go wrong against them when Maryville played at Bearden. Because they got 2 starters back for that game. They got the quarterback back. They got the running back back, but it was their first game back. They showed some rust. And Maryville jumped on every mistake they made.
Of course, that's what they do.
But Bearden didn't quit. So this was one of those weird games where Maryville's up by 4 touchdowns, but they're trading touchdowns with the team with 1s and 2s out there. Like they're going back and forth. So it ended up being like 62-28. I believe that score was. Yeah, 62-28 back on October 3rd. So, I mean, Bearden's got a lot of potential. This is a very good team, and now that you have that,
they played Alcoa down to the wire too, didn't they, earlier in the season?
They did. Everybody's healthy. So, this could be a very good quarterfinal game. And a lot of 6A is shaping up that way this season, where we had some fantastic second-round games last night that we have not seen in recently.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten used to second-round blowouts like the Maryville score, but we had some phenomenal games last night in 6A.
Yeah, sure did. Well,
can I run? Can I run some of those through?
Yeah, you could. We got time for you to do that.
So, one of them that kind of stood out. Let me see here. I'm trying to pull up my score, and it's not cooperating with me. There we go. So, back at the top of the bracket, where we look at that other side, who Maryville might have to play after this quarterfinal game. But you had Oakland and Mount Juliet trading blows. It was 28-28 into the fourth quarter before Oakland wins at 35-28. Riverdale prevails over Blackman, but it was 31-10, but it was a closer game at halftime. Over in Quad 3, the only real true blowout, I'm going to say, besides Maryville, was Ravenwood beating Cane Ridge 42-0. Or, I'm sorry, beating Franklin 45-13.
Okay.
Stewart's Creek and Brentwood, again, went down to the last score, 17-10. So you had some second-round games that were just a lot closer than people thought. Even Houston struggled last night. They're the 1 seed in Region 8, right there with Maryville in the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
But Houston, I mean, they went 17-10 to get by Bartlett, which was a rematch of a region game they'd played earlier this year. So I think you saw a lot closer scores than we're used to seeing with some of these. And I think you're not going to see that in all the classifications, and you certainly didn't last night because we still had some 70-6 games out there. But for 6A, there were a lot of really good one-loss undefeated teams playing each other last night.
And so 6A quarterfinals should be very interesting, and semis.
I'm going to say that it's possible, given how realignment has messed up some of the rivalry games on Thanksgiving weekend. Some of the best football you might see will be on NFHS. Tune in and watch the state semifinals in Class 6A.
I'd say you're right. Well, that's where the playoffs stand as we get to this point in the season. All shooting for the chance to go to Chattanooga and play in Finley Stadium. December 6 and 7 and 8, or 5, 6 and 7, I guess it is.
It is, and it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Division II's on Thursday. 1, 3, and 5A are on Friday. 2, 4, and 6 are on Saturday. So for those young men, I mean, if you're playing at Alcoa, if your goal is to be playing at Finley Stadium, your season's only 20 days long at this point.
Yeah.
That's all you got left.
That's all you got left.
If you're Maryville, you got 21.
Especially if you're a senior.
Yeah. But for those players, I mean, they've already played 13 weeks, 12 games, 11 games for Maryville, Alcoa, respectively. But, you got the potential of 3 games left. but you've put 12 under your belt. So this is what it came. If to make those other 12 weeks matter, this is what matters now. Is these next 3 weeks.
All comes down to this.
And in those 20 days, there's a good chance that the weather may be cool.
Yeah.
Because this has been a very unusual fall.
It really has.
Well, I don't know about your yard, but mine was like Charlie Brown. It was like I walked outside and the leaves were green. I turned around, they were red, and then they were all on the ground with brown within like 12 hours.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Well, I was looking at some of my trees, and some of the leaves on my trees are still green, and I'm thinking, man, I'm telling you right now, if we don't get some cooler weather, I'm going to have snow on those leaves before they drop, So, been crazy. Hadn't been football weather, I can tell you that.
No,
it felt like football last night.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, last night. Yeah,
Of course,
it was
and
crisp.
It was the first time I saw people in line to get coffee at a high school football game this year. That's not been the case up the first 13 weeks, but last night there were people in line getting coffee and kids getting hot chocolate. Of course, there were also kids buying popsicles, so
Yeah. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? I guess sugar of any form is great when you're 9.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's move on to talk about a few national letters of intent that were signed this week. We'll get right to it here. Carly Hammondtree from Greenback High School signed with Maryville College to play softball. That's a good thing.
Maryville College is a very good.
Good softball school.
It's been a program that's been strong. I think Leah Kelly helped lay a foundation to get it back onto the map.
Yeah, I agree.
And now the program has moved on since then, but it's made itself a conference power. And the fact it was able to play itself into the NCAA tournament last year by winning the conference tournament, and then made a run where they were right there playing to go to the Sweet 16. So, that's a really good program. It's bringing in really good talent.
Yep. Well, let's move on to the signees from Maryville High School this week. Mac McCord signed with Roan State Community College to play baseball. Now, that's a pretty good baseball program too, isn't it, Marcus?
It is. They're in that kind of same position.
Yeah.
They are vying for postseason. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with what will happen in their new conference when they move. I'm not as because it's not one we see all that often in the spring sports. But if you can compete with some of the teams they play right now, you can compete with most anybody.
Sounds good. Bailey Holloman, also from Maryville, signed with Montreat to play soccer. Did you find out where Montreat is?
I have not looked where Montreat is. We've had a couple of kids sign there recently, both this spring or last spring and this fall. So somebody's making some really good recruiting inroads into Blount County
right
from
about
Montreat
that.
In multiple programs because we've seen, I believe Maryville, William Blount both have had signees there in recent days and during this signing week, but also I believe last spring during signing day.
Well, I just looked at Montreat College is a Christian college in Montreat, North Carolina.
Okay.
So now we know. Now we know. Congratulations. Danica White, also from Maryville, signed with Duquesne for swimming.
It seems like every year we have a Maryville swimmer going.
Yep, we do.
If not more than one. And for a sport that's not it's an official program at school, but it's swimming teams have been in the limbo for years now. TSSAA, we're having their own association, their own state championship. That sometimes they just get forgotten, especially because we've moved past that age, like when you were at William Blount, where the pool was part of the school's facilities, and it's been
true.
It's been a generation since that was the case.
It sure has. Yeah, it's been an auxiliary gym for quite a while.
I don't think
now.
most of the students realize that auxiliary gym where they're practicing used to be a swimming pool.
No, I'd say you're right. Well, anyway, Duquesne, I just looked up also, and Duquesne University is a Catholic university in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So they're the Dukes, the Duquesne Dukes.
Yeah, you're probably more familiar with them for basketball, but
yep.
it's a good swimming program, and I think it's a good fit for her.
Outstanding. All right, next up is going to be Sadie Roach from Maryville. She signed with Tusculum for up in Greenville for volleyball.
And I got to talk to Sadie. I've gotten to talk to Sadie several times now from the state tournament, and was able to cover her signing.
Yeah.
Just a fantastic athlete. And I was joking with her after her signing. Here you are, you're the volleyball player. And when we think of volleyball, we think of those players up above the net, slamming it down, spikes. That's what you think of when you think volleyball.
Yes.
That's not her role. She's the one who's back there digging those things off the court. She's the one really, really good setter that can
setter.
A lot of Maryville's performance outside hitting was her calling and executing what Coach Haynes was calling as far as where they were going with it. But she can pass it anywhere.
Well, being a team sport, you got to have people like her.
Well, the old saying, I've actually still got a volleyball shirt somewhere from high school. It says, if you can't pass, you can't pound. And that's true for volleyball.
There we go.
It's kind of like basketball. If you don't have a guard to get it to the big on the inside, the big's not going to score because he's not going to take it down the court by himself.
Absolutely not.
Even in the NBA today.
Nope.
So, it's a vital role, and I think it's a great fit with her at Tusculum because, it's right up the road where parents can still watch. It's Division II, and it's very competitive. It's it's playing in a great league.
Moving on to William Blount High School, several signings from William Blount this week.
The Scott Cupathon.
The Cupathon, yes.
Yeah, William Blount arranges their signing day to go. They let it go out through the entire day, and they make a big thing out of every single signing, and everybody gets to talk.
Cup likes to make a big thing out of everything, doesn't he?
It's a great production, and I'll give him props. He brought former coach Leatherwood was taking a key part in organizing and getting things rolling yesterday.
That's great. Well, let's get to them. Sophia Gambini from William Blount signed with East Tennessee State University for golf, and she is the reigning girls state champion in golf.
She is. A couple weeks ago down there at Maryville. Got to talk to her as well yesterday morning, and if you pick up the story in the Daily Times today, we kind of kidded her with her about it because whenever we talk to her from the paper, or when we talk to her when she's been on the show, she's come in golf attire. She's had the polo shirt, the golf shorts that they have to wear. She has that, for lack of a better term, country club look. Like she can walk into Green Meadow and fit right in. Those are not her comfy clothes.
She lives and breathes it, though. Huh?
Remember the Gambini's moved here from Nevada, and it was not downtown Las Vegas, Nevada. They are an outdoorsy family. So she came for her signing the way she normally dresses. So she had on blue jeans. She had on work boots that have gotten use and a big old silver buckle. I won't say she walked off the set of Yellowstone, but I'm sure people could have made that comparison. But just a very transformative attire from what you think of if all you've seen is her picture in the paper. But it's a great fit for her. She is very focused on where she wants to go with golf. It's a golfing family. All three of her older brothers played collegiate golf. And she's got bigger goals. I mean, she wants to go to ETSU, and she wants to win her way onto the LPGA Tour. If you're going to
do it,
aim big, you aim big. And she aimed big in high school. She won the state championship here. So I think it's a wonderful fit for her, just because of the facilities ETSU can offer.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to collegiate golf, it doesn't matter the size of the school that you're playing at.
No.
If you're playing in that top tier, you're playing against the best.
That's true. Moving on, we got Addison Hanna from William Blount, signed with Montreat for lacrosse. Lacrosse is a growing sport in this area, isn't it, Mark?
It is, and that was the first of a 3-sport run for the Lady Govs yesterday. They had 3 consecutive signees. We'll go ahead and we'll go through that list, but we asked all three of them basically the same question, which was kind of unfair. It's like, what's your favorite memory? That's one of our standard questions when we talk to signees.
Sure.
But in their case, they're going into their season in a couple months, and this season will be the first official season as a sanctioned TSSAA sport. It's all been club level up to this point, so they're making some adaptations, but they're going to be the first seniors as on an official lacrosse team at William Blount. So each of them has a little bit of a special story.
All right. In addition to Addison, we've got Allison Joins, who's signed with Cumberland for lacrosse.
Well, I told you that. Now it's University of the Cumberlands.
University
not
of the Cumberlands.
Cumberland University.
Okay.
University of Cumberlands.
University of the Cumberlands.
And again, good fit for her. And if there is, I won't say she's the spokesman for that team, but if you want the recruiting coordinator for that team, somebody who can talk lacrosse with you and make you want to pick up a stick and go give it a try, that's her. She is just a phenomenal part of that program, and she is going to leave a big hole when she graduates as far as bringing girls on to play, introducing them to lacrosse.
Well, the third member of the lacrosse trifecta from William Blount was Carrie Coulter, who signed with Mars Hill for lacrosse.
And, another one that's – and this is going to for Division II up at Mars Hill. They're in the SAC. It's a really good get for them. And, again, I'm going to say there are a lot of opportunities as more and more colleges are adding lacrosse for women, because it adds another good balance sport to football, because you can put lacrosse and soccer on there at the same time in Division I, where they may not have a men's program, especially outside the ACC, that it makes balance those Title IX numbers at work. I think you're seeing a lot more of that trend continuing to grow, and it's creating a lot more opportunities for female athletes to keep on playing at the collegiate level.
Great. One more from William Blount, Cole Hendrickson, signed with Milligan University for baseball. Now, Milligan University is in Milligan College, Tennessee. That's the name of the town.
Yes, it is.
Milligan College, Tennessee.
And that doesn't get confusing at all.
Nope, absolutely not. But congratulations to Cole Hendrickson. Marcus, why don't you give us, I think there's a few more from Heritage that I did not have. So if you want to give us a
that's because
quick update
only
of those.
One of them's in today's paper, and one of them will be in Monday's paper.
Okay.
So let me start with from the Blount County Jamboree, because she was the winner of the girls' three-point shooting contest as well on Thursday night.
Ah, I got you.
Which was kind of funny, considering she's the post who's supposed to be on the inside, but knocked down 9 of 10 to win the three-point shooting contest.
Nice.
Chloe Heath, she's going to Carson Newman. I think that's a fantastic fit both ways for them.
And it makes Tony happy.
It will make Tony happy.
really happy too.
But Chloe's one of the. She's a good-sized post, which is what Carson Newman needs. She can play inside, and like I said, she can play on the outside too, because she can drop back on you and hit it from the corner. So she's a good fit for them, because Carson Newman, they're going to graduate some of their starting posts at the end of this season. So it's a good opportunity for her. Good meshing of needs and wants there. The other one, how long has Coach Howard been running Heritage now? Can we make fun of him?
Since I was a small child.
Okay.
No.
Oh, all right. It seems like he's been either the head coach or sitting there with Yogi since the school opened.
Yeah, he has.
But this was the 11th Division I signee for the Lady Mountaineers. Mm-hmm. But Carson Swaney signed with Middle Tennessee State last night. She's going to be a Blue Raider.
Fine young lady.
She is, and I was joking with Coach about it, because you don't really always realize it until you actually compare when they're out there on the court, but Carson's got a height advantage over almost any guard who's up against. So she can defend really well in the high school level, and I think that she's got that size that it's going to translate to college. It might take a season or two.
It could,
for that college work to come along, but she's a workaholic anyway.
Yes, she is.
But she's got that size that Division I is looking for.
Oh yeah, they
with
crave
that, with that 6-foot size on the on the outside, where you can, and she can play either wing or the point. I mean, she's very versatile, which will work well with whatever they need her to do. She'll be able to do. But I did joke with Rick. I was like, "Did you ever think about posting her up? I mean, she's almost, she's 6 feet tall." He's like, "No, that's never been an option."
Shoots too well.
They do run some plays where if she's got the right matchup, that they can post her up down low against a smaller guard with some of the rotation. But she's just so good on the outside. They never even consider putting her down there. And he made the comment that I think is worth sharing, because as we're going into basketball season, coming out of the Jamboree, Heritage is looking to get back to state tournament. They feel unfinished business from last year. But when you've got a Division I signee in Carson, a Division II signee in Chloe, you've got some seniors, other key pieces that are back. You can see some conflict as to who's the alpha dog and who's going to do this, and Coach Howard said, "This is sisterhood. They don't have that. They don't have that. They really don't, and they haven't." And he said, and they've more than between each other, but that the way they operate with each other has translated to the rest of the team. That is really. I don't think at any point, if you're coaching a female, if you're coaching a prep team of any size, you're hurting cats. It doesn't matter what gender it is.
True.
But he said, it makes the cat hurting a little bit easier when you have seniors like that.
That's great. Marcus, thank you for that update. We want to wish all of our signees this week the best of luck, and congratulations to you from all of us here at the Goteez Sports page. That'll do it for the Mandy B. Street Realty local scoreboard for this week. I want to tell you that you're listening to WKCE 92.5 FM and 1180 AM Mid-Century Radio, Mike.
Hey, before we get out of here, I got a signing. Can I go out of the county?
Yeah, go ahead.
Better yet, can I go out of the state?
I figured you would.
Braylon Mullins from my hometown of Greenfield, Indiana, plays for the Greenfield Central Cougars. Signed this past week to play basketball for the Connecticut Huskies and Coach Dan Hurley. And a lot of people, including Dan Hurley, thinks that Mullins is going to be a one and done in college. So we'll see. But
we'd like to have him at Tennessee, but
yeah, we would. I would have liked for him just to come down here and see the school.
Yeah,
but that didn't happen. But good luck to him, and he did sign last week, so that makes that deal final, and he'll be heading. I hope he enjoys the winters there.
Yeah.
Before we get out, I know we're pushed, Donnie, but before we get out, let me just run through the scores from the Jamboree.
Okay.
Because it was Thursday at Alcoa. So on the boys' side, opening quarter, Maryville gets a 17-16 win over Alcoa. Alcoa beats Eagleton 17-16, and Eagleton boys looked very, very good.
He got some good
Coach
athletes.
West has done some phenomenal work over there. William Blunt beats Heritage 14-11, which was a very defensive game, despite what you might score might indicate. But it was a very interesting third quarter there. And then on the girls' side, Heritage, as we were just talking about, very loaded. They took a 16-5 quarter over William Blunt. Then Alcoa played the dual quarter role as hosts. They beat Maryville 15-12, and then beat Eagleton 11-6. But if you pick up the paper this morning, the guy you're going to see on the front is Noel Meza Flores, who won the slam dunk competition. And to quote Scott West, he's a freak. He is a phenomenal leaper. He can jump out of the gym.
From Eagleton, I assume.
He's from Eagleton. He put down a pretty phenomenal dunk in the second round, and we got a picture of him coming down. He was a little bit too high to get in focus when he was going up, but he's on the front. And we've got all the other winners from the skills contest at halftime in there if you want to take a look.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, Mike, get us out of here.
All righty, it's time to turn the page. And next up, the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment. You're listening to the Goteez Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the Goteez Sports Page Player of the Week segment, featuring Daily Times senior reporter Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Anderson Lumber Company, where quality service is always a priority. Proudly serving Blount County for over 75 years. And Marcus Fitzsimmons, before I get over to you, I've got a few more comments about this Georgia-Tennessee game tonight, and I've written down some things here, and I got to apologize a little bit before I get into this. For last week, I got everybody built up on Indiana. Remember that, Donnie? I was saying, man, you know, they've just beaten the tar out of everybody all year long, and they're deserving to be ranked right there in the top 10 and so forth and so on. Y'all need to tune in and watch the Michigan game today. And what did they do? They played the worst game of the whole year and barely got by.
Still
20-15.
won, though. They're still undefeated.
You got to win. Win in advance. I guess that's the way to do it. Yeah. But they didn't play their best game last week against Michigan.
No, they did not.
But Michigan, you know, heck, they're the defending national champions. You know, they had some players out there.
Yeah, they did.
So, anyway, they did get by bad. I want to talk a little bit about the game tonight and maybe the road to victory for both of these teams. I got number 1 on here, and Marcus, you can jump in on any of these. Be able to run the ball. You got to be able to run the ball, but the Bulldogs have no Dylan Sampson. You know, Tennessee's got Dylan Sampson. They got the best runner back there. But Georgia, they pride themselves on running the ball and the physicality of their offensive line. But so far, in the last few games, and for the most part this year, Marcus, that physicality just hadn't been there.
Sorry, Marcus. Go.
Hey, Donnie, let me back on.
I'll let you back in.
Okay. Now, it depends. I don't know how you want to say it. There's a presence that hasn't always been there, as far as the set of mind that I'm going to move you. I think that's been lacking some and hasn't been as consistent as you'd want it to be.
Yeah. And tonight they're going to have to move. They're going to have to move one of the best defenses in the country.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Question, Mike. I don't know what. I haven't seen this week, but is Deshaun Bishop going to dress out this week? He didn't even dress out to spell Dylan Sampson last week.
You know, I haven't heard. Everything's been on Nico.
I haven't heard.
Week, you
know?
Yeah. I haven't seen it on the injury report that he was. I think he was still listed as questionable. I have to go back and check.
Okay.
Which I took it to mean he may not be traveling. I don't know.
You know, the kid's very talented. He's a good running back. He's young, but
remember,
only time can fix that.
Right.
Part of it was, you know, we went into fall camp that he was the only healthy back behind Sampson. Mm-hmm. So he got a lot of working carries and earned a lot of trust from the coaching staff with that situation.
That's true. He did.
So now we've got a reverse situation where he's banged up and injured, but some of those backs that they were looking at in fall camp have been getting the carries in his absence now. So we're going to see what some of them can do. And I think we saw that once he got banged up 2 weeks ago, and didn't play last week. That it's opened up some opportunities because Tennessee does have a fairly deep running back room. It's just you've got to earn your place to be on the field, and if you in this environment, this coaching staff's not real. You're going to pay the price if you turn the ball over. We've seen Sampson come out of the game for fumbling. We've seen him sit the next series. There is a price to pay, and even with Deshaun out, they did that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll see. We will see some other backs down there. It won't all be on Dillon.
You can call it sitting him out if you want to, but he's carrying the ball about 30 times a game. I say it's sitting him out to rest him a little bit. If you want to penalize him a little bit, I guess that's true too. But
they'd much rather rest him being up.
Call it that.
They'd much rather have another touchdown in the second quarter
we'll
and be resting him in the fourth.
We'll just kill two birds with one stone there. Hey, who can create some turnovers? This is another point of emphasis with both teams having outstanding defenses. Need to look for that tonight. Who can make some big plays offensively? Is it going to be Nico? Is it going to be Carson Beck? Nico's had the injury. Carson Beck, he's had some real problems with interceptions the last few games. Who could make that big play offensively on the pass play to turn the tide in the game? That's something to watch for. Which defense will break? How do you break them? Well, you break them with the run. You break them with keeping them out there on the field. And making them work. We saw that a little bit with Tennessee's defense against Mississippi State. They were out there quite a bit. They gave up some pretty good sizable runs against Mississippi State last week. I think it was because they were out on the field more than probably they would have liked for them to be out there. What do you think, Marcus?
Well, yes and no. Yes, I think they were on the field a little bit longer than they wanted to be because of some short possessions from the offense. But at the same time, as bad as Mississippi State's record is, it's still a team that put up 3 scores on Georgia, too. I mean, it's not like they are bumbling around and not able to make plays. They just haven't been efficient most of the time. But they are, when they actually can put together 4 or 5 or 6 plays, they can be a hard offense to stop when they've got everything working for them.
Yeah. Another point of emphasis I've got is who can be most effective in the red zone. Now, Tennessee's defense has been outstanding in the red zone. They've been real stingy about giving up touchdowns, and they've been real good about getting turnovers in the red zone. So we'll see how that plays out tonight. How do the injured Vols perform? Nico and Dylan Sampson, how do they perform coming back from some bruises, bumps, and so forth from the Mississippi State game? Field position in the kicking game. Kirby Smart mentioned last week that he was extremely, Donnie, and you can address this because you were an outstanding kicker, but Kirby Smart mentioned last week that special teams could be a big factor in this football game.
And as they always can, Mike.
Yep.
It's just something that's a given. Special teams can win football games. They can lose football games for you just as easily as offenses and defenses can.
Yeah. And the game could come down to a field goal. This, I think, is just ultra important. If you're watching the football game tonight, kind of keep in your mind there third down plays. Georgia, Marcus, has not been very good on third down plays on offense or defense. Holding teams on third down or making plays to get first downs on third downs. How does Georgia handle that tonight?
As far as for themselves?
Yeah.
It's a problem that they've been trying to address, and Kirby Smart's not been living up to his name and trying to figure that one out so far because it's not been a recent development. It's something that has been plaguing Georgia all year long. If you want to go back to the early criticisms in week 2 and 3, basically since the win over Clemson, that Georgia's been consistently shooting itself in the foot by being inefficient.
Yeah.
That it's had opportunities and let them go because it could not get off the field defensively and it could not sustain drives offensively. And those, when they talk about feeding into each other, complementary football, that's how you do it, is winning on those third down situations.
Yeah. And another note to watch, keep an eye on the penalties tonight. And Donnie, with that loud atmosphere down there, illegal procedure. Because having difficulty hearing those signals.
Yeah.
We've seen that up here in Neyland Stadium where teams have been penalized because of motion-type penalties, and hopefully Tennessee can work that out. But they've been a little notorious on the penalty end. You know,
Yeah.
since Josh Heupel has been here.
You're right.
one
False
of the-
starts are easy to come by.
One of the things in his
It's so
program
loud.
that has hurt it has been penalties. So
Well, another thing is, you mentioned this earlier, but from the perspective of Tennessee hasn't been on the road since they went to Fayetteville.
yeah.
It's
And
been a while.
lost.
It's been a while. So having the crowd noise go against you, there's no way to simulate that after you've enjoyed 4 weeks of it being on your side.
Yeah. But, you know, past history, even though Georgia's won 7 straight games, Tennessee has played pretty well against Georgia. You know, you had the Hail Mary down there. What was that, 2015? It seems like a long time ago. But
It does.
remember,
What-
you had the
Well,
Hail Mary
Josh
down
Dobbs
there.
threw it, so it was,
And-
2017?
But normally Tennessee gets together with
Maybe so.
Georgia. It's usually a pretty good football game. You know, it can go right down to the wire.
It can.
So need to look for that too. Let's go to break, huh? Time
Yep,
for a break?
it's time.
All right, time for a break. When we return, it's the Boys Sports Spotlight as Donnie Moore will be up with the sports headlines, and I'll follow up with some more college football and take a look at the latest on the college football playoff poll. You're listening to the Goteez Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Boyd Sports Spotlight segment. And the spotlight will be on the national sports news. And to give that news for this week, as he does every week, ex-Maryville Scott and Blount County Sports Hall of Famer Donnie Moore. You're up, guy.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right.
Let's look at our sports headlines of the week. And as always, they are brought to you by Fast Signs. Well, the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight, already once delayed, finally happened last night in Dallas, Texas. Paul, 27, had not fought at the heavyweight class ever and weighed in at 227.2 pounds. Tyson, on the other hand, 58 years old, weighed in at 228.4 pounds. The match, which went the distance, which was 8 rounds, was won by Jake Paul by unanimous decision. Thought this was an interesting fact. Paul threw 278 punches, landing 78. And Tyson threw only 95 punches, landing 18.
Well, Tyson's a more experienced boxer by decades.
Definitely.
But he's good. I mean, part of it is not how many punches you can, how many times you can swing.
No.
It's being, smoothly efficient and picking spots and
Effective with your punches.
right. So he was I think he was better able to judge when he wanted to take a swing. He just doesn't have the ability to land them anymore.
Well, that's
he doesn't
maybe
have
true.
that speed that he might still have the power. I don't know, but he doesn't have the speed he had when he was such a phenomenal fighter.
Mm-hmm.
George Foreman's still alive.
I don't know.
Need to look that up. That might be a good fight. George Foreman and Mike Tyson.
He sells a lot of grills.
Look it up.
Well, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders and wide receiver cornerback Travis Hunter are two of the top NFL prospects in the country. In fact, Hunter and Sanders are expected to be among the top 5 picks in the 2025 NFL Draft. Usually, players have no control over where they land, but Colorado head coach Deion Sanders has said he won't let his talented duo go to just any team. Coach Prime has indicated that if the, quote, wrong team tries to draft his son, he'll step in privately, not publicly, but privately. He said, quote, I'm going to be a dad until the cows come home, and with Travis as well, end of quote.
You know, that happened with Peyton Manning.
Yes, it
Wasn't
did.
Seattle going to draft him? Wasn't Seattle or one of those teams out with? And he ended up there at Indianapolis.
And it happened with Eli, too. Eli said, I won't play. I won't play if it wasn't somewhere
that's
San
not the
Diego.
first time that's
San
taken
Diego,
place.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida, is the home park of the Tampa Bay Rays, but not next season. The team announced this week that its home for the 2025 season will be Steinbrenner Field due to the damage done by Hurricane Milton last month to Tropicana Field. Steinbrenner Field, the spring training home of the New York Yankees and the Yanks single-A affiliate, the Tampa Tarpons, is actually located in Tampa, right next door to Raymond James Stadium, home to the NFL's Buccaneers.
They're building a new stadium down there.
They are.
So as a result of building that new stadium, they're not going to put the money in that damaged stadium.
Well, it's going to cost over $55 million to repair the roof to play in there for a couple of years.
Put the insurance money in your pocket. They're going to tear the place down anyway.
I agree.
And there's another major league team, Oakland. They're playing in a minor league park too.
Yeah.
So there's 2 teams next year playing in minor league.
I just wonder if they took bids on what it would take to repair the stadium, but the damage is mostly limited to the roof.
Yes.
You're in Florida. I know it's going to rain, but you know what? It
Take the
rains
roof
everywhere
off.
else. How much would it cost just to cut the damage off and play on the regular field?
Yeah, but man, the humidity down there. I mean,
that's true.
The roof doesn't keep the humidity out. It's not climate controlled.
Good.
It's just keeping the rain out.
Keep the rain off.
Yeah.
Well, National Football League Commissioner Roger Goodell would like to see the league expand the international schedule to include 16 games within 5 years. 5 international games were played this season, with 3 in London, 1 in Germany, and 1 in Brazil. The number is expected to rise to 8 next season, with games to be played in London, Spain, and Germany, and possibly even Mexico, Brazil, and Ireland. Possible future sites include Abu Dhabi, Paris, Barcelona, Rome, and Dublin.
Let me tell you,
16?
you could scratch all those off the list except for Dublin. If there was a number 1 city, like if you wanted to put at the top of the list, this is the city will be the first international franchise outside the continental United States. Yep. It would be in Dublin.
There is
no other country that enjoys U.S. sports as much as the Irish. And you can see it, if you ever go to visit, you can see it in the shops, in the attire. It's not like an emulation, but it's like they're kind of like the Australians. They enjoy sports.
Yeah, they do. I've been to Dublin. I saw it when I was there.
I don't think there's any question. I think the question is, I don't think you're ever going to convince the citizens of London to enjoy American football. And I know you're not going to ever convince the Germans to enjoy it. So when it comes to expansion with the NFL, I think you need to basically follow. Your best bet is to do it in North America, because you're just not going to crack soccer in Europe outside of possibly in Dublin and probably in Australia, but you don't want to know what they would do to the rule book given half a chance, because helmets would be totally optional if you gave them a say in the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to take a baseball tack here and list for you the members of the first team All Major League Baseball. category this year. The catcher was William Contreras of the Brewers. Stop me anytime if you want to talk about these. The first baseman, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. of the Blue Jays. Second baseman is Ketel Marte of the Diamondbacks. The shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. of the Royals. Now, this is all Major League Baseball, combining both leagues. Third baseman, Jose Ramirez of the Guardians. Three outfielders, Juan Soto of the Yankees, Mookie Betts of the Dodgers, and Aaron Judge of the Yankees. So the Yankees placed two outfielders there on that list. The DH, no big surprise here, Shohei Ohtani of the Dodgers.
Well, you know, you got to put him on there, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much have to with the way he hits. But, oh, man, he's just somebody just needs to work on his nickname.
Yeah.
They really do. That's the only thing this guy is missing from
needs a good
being
nickname.
a household name is that Americans just struggle with his name. He just needs a nickname, Americanized nickname that would bring him more into the household. Because he's a player, he's a generational player.
He sure is. The starting pitchers, there are five of them, actually.
Well, you got to have a five-man rotation these days
That's
because
true.
nobody's allowed to pitch more than 5 times in a game.
You're right. One of them is Chris Sale of the Braves. One starting pitcher is Tariq Skubal of the Tigers. Paul Skeens of the Pirates. Former SEC player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a rookie.
Yeah.
I mean, he was throwing in the College World Series not
too far
not
removed.
too long ago.
That's true. Zach Wheeler of the Phillies and Corbin Burns of the Orioles. That's your rotation for starting on the mound. And your relief pitchers, which there are two, is Emmanuel Clace. Am I saying that right?
Sure.
Clace of the Guardians and Ryan Helsley of the Cardinals. So from top to bottom, that's some pretty good baseball players.
My quibble would be I think you need maybe 3 starting pitchers and 7 relief pitchers on that list because if you're only going to throw 4 innings as the starter and the bullpen's going to carry the rest, I think if we can call them a middle reliever on television, why can't we have a middle reliever position on the all MLB team and a closer position? I mean, I think we need to do it right because they're carrying almost as many innings as a starter does now.
Yes, they are. Let me run quickly through the things that happened on this day in sports. November 16th, 1957, Boston Celtics center Bill Russell sets an NBA record of 49 rebounds as Boston beats the Philadelphia Warriors 111-89 at Boston Gardens. 49 rebounds, Mike. Whew.
Well, that says that Philadelphia didn't shoot very well.
That's
you were
true.
thinking the same thing I was.
That's true.
Yeah.
On this day in 1962, San Francisco Warriors center Wilt Chamberlain scores 73 points in a 127-111 win over the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden.
Well, he scored 100 in a game, so
he sure did.
73 doesn't surprise me one bit.
Not a bit. 1966, Pirates outfielder Roberto Clemente is named the National League MVP. 1969, Richard Nixon becomes the first U.S. president to attend a regular season NFL game while in office. The final score of that one was Cowboys 41, Redskins 28.
Yeah, he showed up at the Redskins practices.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Became real good friends with George Allen, was coaching the Skins back at that time.
1977, Rod Carew of the Twins wins the American League MVP award. 1986, Dale Earnhardt wins the NASCAR Sprint Cup championship. 1997, Jeff Gordon wins the NASCAR Sprint Cup championship. 2003, 16-year-old Lionel Messi makes his debut for the Football Club Barcelona as a substitute versus Porto. 16 years old. Wow. Hey, boy, he sure has had a fabulous career. 2021 men's roller derby team settles a dispute with a Major League Baseball team, allowing both to use the name Cleveland Guardians. So there's two teams called the Cleveland Guardians. One's a baseball team, one's a roller derby team.
I don't like the nickname at all.
No, I don't either. Doesn't mean anything.
One's too many. Two's really too many.
Yeah, really. Birthdays on today, November 16, 1964, Dwight Doc Gooden, American pitcher, 4-time Major League All-Star, National League Cy Young winner, and Triple Crown winner in 1985. Played for the Mets, born in Tampa, Florida. 1977, Oksana Bayul, the Ukrainian figure skater, was the world champion in 1993, won Olympic gold in 1994. She was born in Dnipro, the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, Soviet Union. Wow. Deaths, 2017. This name will be familiar to boxing fans. Ferdy Pacheco. He was an American physician. He was a cornerman for Muhammad Ali and a boxing analyst for NBC and Showtime. Died at the age of 89. 2023, Bobby Ussery, American Horse Racing Hall of Fame jockey. Won the Preakness Stakes in 1960 and the Kentucky Derby in 1967. Died at the age of 88. Well, that's all for this week's Sports Headlines. Brought to you, as always, by Fast Signs. I'm Donnie Moore. Back to you, Gunner.
Hey, George Foreman, by the way, is still alive and breathing.
Good.
So Mike Tyson might want to look into him. George is 75. Marcus, you think he'd be interested in a fight with maybe Tyson? Of course, Tyson's 58.
I don't think so.
That'd be like Luke Appling hitting a home run in an old-timers game,
I guess I
wouldn't it?
remember that.
I do, too.
Yeah. That's something else. Hey, let's look at this college football playoff, the rankings. Oregon at 10-0 is number 1. Ohio State number 2 at 8-1. Texas number 3 at 8-1. Penn State number 4 at 8-1. Indiana number 5 at 10-0. BYU number 6 at 9-0. Tennessee 8-1 at number 7. Notre Dame number 8 at 8-1. Miami number 9 at 9-1. Alabama number 10 at 7-2. Number 11 Mississippi at 8-2. And number 12, Georgia at 7-2, and right now they're not in. Boise State would be in, and they are 8-1. Marcus, a couple of things to note right here that's a little bit surprising. Four of the first 5 teams are from the Big Ten. To me, that's a little bit surprising. Of course, I live down here in the South, and I hear a lot about Southeastern Conference football. Yeah. But you got Texas in there, and a lot of the Southeastern Conference, they don't even want to claim Texas right now because they're just a new member.
They're a newbie.
But all the solid people are not in that top. Not in that top 5. Is that a little surprising to you or not?
No, because of the nature of the self-cannibalism that goes on with these conference schedules. I think the Big Ten's going to see some of those are going to be playing each other. Those are still to come in these last 3 weeks, so I think you're going to see some more movement out of that. And I don't think people expected as much equality across the top of the SEC. There's been, a lot of, from the conference perspective, you don't want to see this many teams putting one loss on each other where you're going to be facing this situation possibly where you've got Texas and then four 2-loss teams to choose from to put in that second spot in the championship game. So I'm not surprised by it. The surprise to me is Notre Dame. I don't understand how the committee has forgiven the loss to Northern Illinois to put them one spot behind Tennessee. I don't care if they've had one loss. They basically lost to an FCS team. And I don't care if you beat Army. You still haven't played anybody. You beat them.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you to a certain extent, but some of those teams that they've played, were ranked at the time they played them. Of course, you got to look at the rankings right now and where they're at. Now, Army's 24, and they're going to be 9-0 when they play Army next week. Of course, everybody's saying that's just Army, but they are ranked. They are ranked 24th in the nation.
They are.
Well, I got
So
it up. They beat Navy. When they gave Navy their first loss. That's what I was thinking of.
But the committee's kind of going on where everything stands right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way they look at it. So Army's 9-0, and if you're looking at putting them in there, and then of course they had the big they beat Texas A&M. You know, so they're hanging their hat, and they beat a pretty good Georgia Tech team that beat Miami. So I think you're just a little bit out of line. You're a little bit too Southern for me to say they didn't play anybody, because there's a couple of instances right there. But I do agree with you. I do agree with you that that's an absolutely horrible loss that they took to Northern Illinois. And if they had that back right now, you know, they'd be saying we're really setting good getting into the playoffs. But there's not much margin of error from Notre Dame, except they are Notre Dame. And they don't play a conference championship game, and you got to worry about them with 2 losses. If they got one more loss, I think you still got to worry about them a little bit. Now, that being said, there's 5 spots that are going to be guaranteed by these 4 conference teams, as we mentioned, and the one outside conference, best-ranked team, will take a 5th spot. So 5 of the 12 spots, they're solidified. That leaves 7 spots. Now, you got 4 teams in the Big Ten that look like they could get in, and their schedules are very accommodating that they could just have 1 loss. So them 4 teams. Then you've got the SEC where you got, and I'm going to go over that you got 7 teams right now that's got anywhere from 1 loss to 2 losses. Okay, if the SEC are down here going, well, we're looking at 4 teams getting in. Well, if you're looking at 4 teams getting in and the Big Ten's got 4 teams, that's 8. 8 and 7's 15. 8 and 7 is 15. And then you got to look at it at large Notre Dame, and then, hey, the math's not working out here. What I'm saying, I'm thinking somebody's going to be pretty disappointed after this is all said and done.
There's going to be a lot of disappointment to go around, especially if it breaks certain ways. I think you could see a very upset Missouri that record-wise could make an argument. I think you're going to see a very upset Texas A&M team that's going to get penalized because they play Texas the last week of the season and are going to suffer for that. Now, granted, they could pull the upset, but I just have that feeling Texas A&M is going to be one of those teams that's going to be making an argument. We had a great record. We just lost at the wrong time.
Yeah.
I think you could see a very upset LSU team, even though nobody else is going to sympathize with them. But record-wise, I think they could be in position to have an argument.
Yeah. You got another at-large team out there besides Notre Dame that's not getting – they're under the radar right now, but you got a Washington State team that's 8-1. They're no fluke. Also, these teams are looking in. SMU's 8-1. Looks like they could get in the ACC championship game. Texas A&M is 7-2. We'll talk about them in a second. Kansas State is 7-2. Colorado's 7-2. Looks like they control their own destiny as far as getting into the Big 12 championship game. Clemson's 7-2. I know they've had a couple of losses, but they could win the conference championship. And you got we've mentioned Tulane at 8-2 and Army at 9-0, which are in these other leagues. So right now everything's pretty much up in the air. SEC, I counted it up. You got Tennessee is in the hunt. Texas A&M is in the hunt. Texas is in the hunt. Georgia's in the hunt. Ole Miss is in the hunt. Alabama's in the hunt. And Missouri, who I think's a long shot, is in the hunt. But some of these teams, like Ole Miss, have a very favorable schedule. Looks like Ole Miss it looks like a shoe-in to finish 10-2. So there they are. They're 10-2. You got Georgia. If they beat Tennessee tonight, then they've got a breather next week, and they play Georgia Tech at home. You'd like to think they'd finish. What I'm saying here is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams, and can't rule out Missouri, although I think it's a long shot. You got 6 or 7 teams right there that could have 2 losses. Yep. That could have 2 losses after these 12 games play out. I would hate to be on that committee, Marcus, to pick out two teams to play in the championship game of the SEC.
And that's when it's going to matter, because remember the tiebreaker for the conference championship game involves your CFP ranking. If we have a one-loss Texas and we have 5 two-loss teams, that CFP ranking is a factor in the tiebreaker. So if you're one of those two-loss teams, well, yeah, you can go to the championship and win your way in automatically. You can go in there and lose your spot because you'll be a 3-loss team, and you basically left the door open for the other 4 guys to get those at-large bids.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because if Georgia was to beat Tennessee tonight and they're one of those 10-2 teams, and the committee says, well, Georgia needs to be in the championship game because they played the toughest schedule. Well, they lose that championship game, then they've got their 3rd loss, just what you're saying right there.
Yeah, and then they're not going to make the field at all.
They're out with the toughest schedule in America.
Right.
So,
strange stuff could happen.
And you got to wonder what the networks are going to do, because if that doesn't happen, let's just say that Georgia and Texas did play in the SEC championship game, and this time Texas wins. So theoretically Georgia's out, but maybe they're not. They give them the credit of the schedule, and they slip them in there as the 12 seed. Well, what happens if you end up with Georgia playing their way in the national championship game? It's a 3rd game in one season between the same 2 teams.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that could
what
happen.
does that and because they're from the same conference, what does that do to your rankings? I think you have to question some of the network influences that might come into play that should not.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Big Ten here, and there are 4 teams. Indiana's 10-0, Oregon's 10-0, Ohio State 8-1, Penn State 8-1. But Penn State lost to Ohio State. Ohio State plays Indiana next week, so that's going to clear up a little bit right there. Ohio State beats Indiana, then it looks like it would be Ohio State and Oregon in the championship game, and then Indiana and Penn State would be at the mercy of the College Football Playoff Committee in the Big Ten. Is that the way you see that playing out or not?
I think so. The moving around the rivalries really messes me up when I reference in my head who should be playing who at what given time. But it would seem like Oregon they control their own fate. Ohio State controls its own fate as to making the Big Ten championship game. And that's what you want. But I think Indiana also controls their own fate. If they can beat Ohio State, they're in there.
Well, they're in. No doubt. But Indiana has Purdue left at home on their final game, so I would have to mark them in at 11-1, as bad as Purdue is. If they can't beat Purdue, they don't deserve to be in. But it looks like they're going to finish 11-1. Penn State is 8-1 right now, but they're going to be favored in their last 3 games, so they're going to be looking at 11-1 too. Out of the Big Ten, there's 2 teams right there that's only got 1 loss between them.
Penn State is going to, I think from the committee's viewpoint, is going to look like Missouri. Yeah, they have 1 loss, but who have they beaten, really? They're the benefit of their conference schedule in that they haven't had to – they've only had to play Ohio State. They haven't had to play Oregon. They haven't had to play some of the other powers and beat them.
And unlike Indiana, they haven't eyeballed anybody as far as blowing them out. Where you've impressed people. I mean, Indiana has blown people out. They've been handed this Big Ten schedule, and outside of last week against Michigan, they've pretty much blown everybody out they've played on their schedule.
And one thing I think you'll have that's going to come into play that probably shouldn't but will is that with the SEC and ACC, they are on the ESPN networks with their conference networks affiliations. Everybody is seeing them. I know the Big Ten is on Fox and has those other deals, but I can honestly say, outside the games I've gone to look for, I have not seen a Big Ten game just regularly flipping through. It's just not – Fox just isn't in that sports tier on the channel guides when you're flipping through. They're all the way on they're 20 channels down over here. So I don't think they're getting the viewership that for this national look.
Yeah.
And I think that it should not impact things, but I think it will.
Yeah, and I think the ACC is in the same category. The ACC's got 4 teams. SMU's 8-1. They're kind of under the radar, but a pretty good football team.
Yeah.
Clemson is 7-2. Miami's 9-1, and Pittsburgh's 7-2. Clemson, Pittsburgh play today, so that's going to work itself out right there. But they've got 4 teams still in the hunt. Over in the Big 12, BYU's 9-0, but they've kind of been on borrowed time a little bit. Marcus, Utah had them on the ropes big time last week.
They did.
And let them
really did.
and let them up. But they're 9-0. Colorado, who controls their own destiny, 7-2. Iowa State 7-2, Kansas State 7-2, and Arizona State 7-2. So they've got 5 teams over there with 2 losses. ACC's got nobody in their Final Four with any more than 2 losses. So, you know, the 2 losses right now around the conference is the cutoff in the next 3 weeks. If you get a third one, you're done.
Yeah.
You better get your tickets and so forth and get ready or make plans to go to a bowl game somewhere.
Or, and this is bad to say, but gosh, wouldn't it be fun if the committee got put in the situation where the eyeball test says a 3-loss team like a Georgia deserves to be in over a 2-loss team or several 2-loss teams, and we have a repeat of last year with what they did to Florida State.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Lords of Chaos. I love that. I would love to see the committee put in that position by a 3-loss team having a phenomenal conference championship game, maybe losing by a point.
I think if this SEC plays out like we're talking about with a lot of 2-loss teams, and you've got to almost flip a coin to decide who's going to play in your championship game and some teams being left out of the playoffs, I think there's going to be some hollering about this schedule, how it's made out by the conference and so forth. And what I'm saying is, I know how Tennessee feels about, well, we've always played Vandy and we've always played Kentucky, and I know there's other teams on that same side that say, well, we've always played Auburn or we've always played Texas A&M. I understand all that, but do you want to sacrifice what you got at stake right here for some traditional rivalries that's really not going to be doing you any good when you get right down to the brass tacks and nails right here? That's my question.
I think it will kind of even itself out, but the conference has got to decide on how many conference games they're going to play. That's the next big question for the SEC is how many conference games will they require you to play? So, that number, they did not move it up this time, but it's on the table for reconsideration. When you add that in with the requirement you play somebody from another Power 4 conference, you're asking for this kind of scenario where you've got 2-loss teams and a bunch of them that are good.
I'm just saying, look at Tennessee's schedule right here, and they put Kentucky back on there and Vanderbilt on there, which Tennessee says, well, they're our traditional rival. And then you've got those on there, and then if that wasn't bad enough, then they give you Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tennessee's only guarantee is Alabama and Vanderbilt. That's the 2 that they are guaranteed right now under this format. Everybody else is just how the conference schedules it. And for sales purposes, we don't know. I mean, could it be like basketball where we get into the process where they are releasing your conference schedule every summer and you really don't know who you're going to be playing? That's a possibility.
Well, you know what would help this right here? Go to 10 games. That way you got another game to try to work all this out right here that you got right here. Not 9, but 10 games. Nobody wants to go over there and see UTEP, and they don't want to go over there and see Austin Peay or UT. They don't want to go over there and see those games. They want to see something that means something within the league that's going to count toward the playoffs. And 10's better than 9, and if we had 10, we'd be working this deal out right now, and we wouldn't have this problem.
Well, I would say, this is me, but, let's play a 10-game schedule, and let's have quarterfinals, semifinals, championships on the conference level and play it that way, and then let the 4 conference champions fight it out.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do that, I guess. But I don't know.
Of course, that's what we do on high school, and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. But,
we've seen this kind of scenario before in the top, trying to figure out the top 4. And it always seemed to work its way out. Outside of a few situations, you always got them the best 4. There was some controversy last year where Florida State was undefeated and they lost their quarterback and they left them out. But for the most part, things have been able to be worked out. This year, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure right now.
I told you 12 was a mistake and that they should have gone to 16 and not try to take an in-between step, and
Yeah.
that's absolutely what's going to play out.
You're right. They should have.
Yeah.
But even with 16, you're still going to have teams that are going to make a case, but it's the chances of it being a true contender for the title are not nearly as strong or likely
Yeah.
when you've got 16 more than 12.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping Tennessee comes through tonight. Otherwise, they're going to be an argue move. They're going to be like, hey, we got the biggest stadium right here. You know, this is going to be a lot of money. Look at Indiana up there. They only have half the seats. You're not going to make near as much money. We got the greatest fan base. Blah, blah, blah. We beat Alabama. We beat Alabama.
Well, who wants to sit in the Indiana Stadium outside in the middle of December?
Yeah, well, look. Well, you can look at who they got these pairings. Look at the Alabama. They got Alabama going to Indiana. Can you imagine going up there? You're going to shovel snow off of that field. They can't afford a tarp up there in Indiana this year.
Goodness.
Maybe next year they can get a tarp. And then you got Ole Miss going to Penn State. Boy, that'll be a nice place to play. Happy Valley up there. You won't be able to see the field from the snow coming down up there. That'll be great.
They can borrow something from the Steelers. Maybe they can go over and play at Steelers Stadium.
Yeah. Donnie, is it time to go to break?
Yes, it is.
Hey, time for a break. When we return, we'll be back to close out today's show. You're listening to the Goteez Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, along with Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons. Games of interest today. You talk about the rivals. Well, look who we got right here. Texas and Arkansas. Texas and Arkansas, Marcus, and that's an old-time rivalry stretching back to the Darrell Royal years and so forth and so on. But Arkansas is 5-4. Texas, I don't know what Texas thinks they're going to get today. I don't know what Arkansas is going to do today. They're so up and down.
Oh, you never know about
They're like
Arkansas.
a bouncing ball, you know.
Yeah.
They can be up, down, all around.
Goodness.
I don't know, but that's a big game right there, you know.
It is, and I just want to take a cigar and drop it in your drink for Ray's sake, for Coach Trail's sake today. Just
Yeah.
because, this is one I think he would love to see that it's being played again.
Yeah.
And because it was such a big game in the SWC, and now that it's back in the SEC, which makes no sense, but that's okay. We're good with it. But I love to see the rivalry return.
Yeah. Two of those two lost teams, Clemson and Pittsburgh, they'll play today in Pittsburgh. Utah will be at Colorado, and Utah, I think they're better than their 4-5 record. So we'll see what happens there. Boston,
I think they could give Colorado.
I think they could.
A real problem.
I think they're a much better team in 4-5. Boston College at 5-4 goes to SMU today. I don't think SMU is going to have any trouble with them. Boston College changing quarterback today.
Right.
The quarterback that was there, he has packed his bags and said, "I'll see you later. You're not going to play me. You're going to put somebody else in my place. See you later." So
in the portal?
Yeah. Well, he didn't put his name in the portal. He just
left.
He just left. So I don't know.
Wow.
Maybe he hadn't given it any thought, but I think SMU today big. Missouri is at South Carolina. Now South Carolina is one of those teams at 6-3. Marcus, I think they're one of the teams that's really playing very well right now.
Well, Beamer Ball's trying to prove that it can have a winning SEC record.
Yeah.
And that would be a huge step forward for the program to be able to do that.
And that's one of those games where, well, in fact, we got shellacked there. Was that last year?
No, 2 years
year
ago.
before last.
Two
year
years
before
ago.
last.
Yeah.
All the years are coming together. But
Yeah.
they, South Carolina was on our schedule up until this year. But I think they're playing really well right now. And I don't know about Missouri. They're 7-2. They may be maybe not quite as good.
This could be the game that knocks them out.
Yeah, could be. Kansas is at BYU. BYU, of course, is 9-0. And then Boise State at 8-1 is at San Jose State. So there you go right there. I think Boise State's about a 14-point favorite to win that game.
As long as I don't have to watch any games on that blue rug.
Boy, I know it.
I love the blue rug.
Gives me a headache.
But they probably won't play a first-round home game there. They're going to send them to Ohio State or somewhere to play. Let's see where they had them penciled in. Yeah, they had them going to Ohio State. And Tennessee, they got Notre Dame coming down here. If Notre Dame withstands the loss, but the winner of that game would get Oregon.
Wow.
So I think out of the
I'll believe it when I see it. Go Knights. I'm gonna be cheering for Army.
You like Knights? You'd like to see the well, if they beat Notre Dame
Lords of Chaos.
if they beat Notre Dame next week, you'd have to consider them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Lords of Chaos.
One
That's what
would
I'm
think.
saying.
Yeah. Has that got it for this week, Donnie?
That does indeed, Mike. It's time to close
All right,
her out.
Blow the whistle.
Here we go.
Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Goteez Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael back at Loud Media, our host, the Bluetick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.
And that's the final whistle. Join us again next